My mom didn't start with, "How are you?" She opened with, "You're going to withdraw from Yale this semester." No build-up, just a decision she'd already made. I was on my dorm bed, laptop on laundry, when she said it. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. "Your sister needs a chance to reset. You can go back next year. Yale will still be there. She doesn't have anything." I stared at her face on screen, realized she meant it. This wasn't a guilt trip. This was an ultimatum. Pick your degree or pick your family. I said, no. Not dramatically, just no. I wasn't dropping out. I thought that would start a long fight. Instead, it was the last normal conversation we had. I didn't know saying no would get me pushed out, or that years later, when Mom was in a hospital asking me to help save her life, those exact words would be all I could think about. If you've ever been told to sacrifice your future for someone who wasted theirs, this is for you. My name is Jordan, 24 now, first in my family to make it to a school anyone outside our zip code has heard of. The only reason I even thought about Yale was because a teacher circled a grade on my test, said, "You know kids from here can go to places like that too, right?" My mom loved telling people I was the smart one, but it was more like bragging about a lottery ticket that turned out to be a winner. My sister Amber was different, older, louder, the kind of person who could walk into a room full of strangers and walk out with 3 new best friends. For a long time, Mom called her my wild child, with this half-exasperated, half-proud tone, like it was a personality trait, not something that could blow up later. Amber tried college once, community college, classes that started late so she didn't have to give up her nights. She dropped out after a year and a half. Few credits, lots of stories. Deep, burning embarrassment that came out sideways as jokes. After that, she bounced between jobs: server, front desk at a gym, some influencer's assistant for 3 chaotic weeks. And somewhere in there, when money was short and tips were bad, she found online gambling. At first, it blended in with everything else on her phone. A notification here, flashy app icon there. She'd shove the screen in my face at the kitchen table. "Look, I just won $60 while you were doing calculus." What she didn't show me? The losses in between. I only realized how serious it was when little things in the house changed. The rainy day jar Mom kept on top of the fridge, suddenly empty. Power bill sat unopened longer than usual. I caught Amber snapping at Mom when she asked about gas money. This sharp, desperate tone I hadn't heard before. Mom worked as a manager at a clothing store, the kind of job that required smiling more than she wanted to, standing longer than her feet could handle. She talked about money the way people talk about weather, constantly, but like it was something happening to her. "I'm just trying to keep us afloat," she'd say. "Once Amber's on her feet, once you graduate, things will get easier." There was a college fund once, not huge, just savings Mom had started when I was a kid. When I got into Yale, that account became less theoretical. Financial aid covered a lot, but there were still gaps: plane tickets, books, living costs. Mom filled some gaps from that fund and made a point of reminding me. "That money could have gone toward a new car," she'd say, half joking, "or a vacation I'll never take." But she'd also tuck $50 bills into my hand at the airport. "Get yourself something that isn't noodles." The night before I left, she threw a small get-together. Family, neighbors, some of Amber's friends. People hugged me, told me to stay humble. Remember where you came from. Mom got misty-eyed when someone asked how she felt. Proud, she said, squeezing my shoulder. Lucky. Amber, already a drink and a half in, laughed. We'll see if she still remembers us when she's all Ivy League. It was a joke, but there was an edge to it. That edge got sharper once I actually got to Yale. At first, Amber's messages were supportive. Send dorm pics. Do they really make you read that much? But slowly, they changed. When I texted about being stressed for midterms, she replied, "Must be nice for that to be your biggest problem." When I mentioned my work-study job, she wrote, "I've worked more hours this week than you will all month. But sure, tell me how tired you are." Mom's calls got shorter, more transactional. Then came the call. The one where she said I should withdraw. Amber failed out, she explained, voice tight. She's devastated. She needs time to figure things out. And she had this idea about opening a bar with me. I waited for the punchline. It would be small, a neighborhood place, but we'd need capital, and there's some money left in that account. My stomach dropped. The college fund. It's not just your money, she said quickly. It's family money, and right now, Amber needs it more than you do. You have scholarships, you'll be fine. She has nothing. So your solution is for me to drop out. Not permanently. Just take a semester off. Work. Save. Come back when things stabilize. Mom, that's not how Yale works. I can't just... You're being selfish, she cut in. Your sister is drowning. I'm asking you to throw her a rope, and you're worried about one semester. One semester turns into forever, I said. You know that. I know that family takes care of family, and right now, you're acting like you're already gone. I said, no. She hung up. For a few weeks, everything slid into uncomfortable silence. We didn't talk about me dropping out. She didn't bring up the bar directly, but there were cracks. Little comments about how expensive groceries had gotten, how Amber's hours were cut, how rent was late. I'd ask, "Are you okay?" She'd always say, "We're fine, just tired." Then came Thanksgiving. I tried to book a ticket home. Called Mom, expecting the usual conversation where she'd complain about prices, then say, "Don't worry, I'll cover half." Instead, when I told her the amount, she let out this short, annoyed laugh. "Jordan, I can't do that right now. Do you know how much I'm juggling?" I hesitated. I thought we were setting aside money for travel. Yeah, well, that was before rent went up and the car needed repairs and your sister's hours got cut. If you want to come home, figure it out. You're the genius, remember? The word genius didn't sound like a compliment. Maybe I'll stay here this year, I said quietly. Lots of people don't go home. Pause on the line, heavy silence. Wow, she said finally. First semester at Yale, and you're already too good for Thanksgiving with your family. That's not what I said. I just don't want to put us in a worse spot. I said I'm tired. I said I'm doing my best. But you hear what you want. It's been 3 months and already you talk like you're visiting from another planet. We hung up without saying, "I love you." Thanksgiving came and went. Campus got quiet. I ate turkey that tasted like committee. Tried not to think about the empty chair with my name on it. After that, our conversations never went back. They got shorter, more transactional. Mom asked about grades, but not about what I was learning. She asked if I'd found any side gigs, followed by half jokes about how, We could use a successful startup founder in the family. A few weeks later, I woke up to an email from the bank. Low balance alert. I frowned, opened the app. The shared savings account, the one that still had a few thousand last time I checked, was down to almost nothing. Several withdrawals listed: rent, utilities, payment to a place I didn't recognize, then another that definitely matched a bar vendor. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. Called Mom. She picked up on the first ring. "Hey, you seen the new pictures I sent? Did you empty the savings?" I cut in. Pause, just long enough. "I used what we needed." "What do you mean, we? That money was for school." "School is paid for. You told me that yourself. Scholarships, grants. Meanwhile, rent is due now. Groceries are due now. Your sister had a slow month." "You could have told me. You could have asked." "Asked what?" she snapped. "Asked if it was okay to keep a roof over our heads? You'd have said yes and then had a panic attack. I spared you that." "You didn't spare me anything. You just made the decision for me. Again." Not everything is about your autonomy. Sometimes adults make hard choices. I didn't blow it on vacations. I used it to keep this family from sinking. By using the only safety net I had. Nothing's gone wrong. We're just stretched thin. You're acting like I stole from a stranger. It's my account too. I put that money there. Legally, she was right. Emotionally, it felt like watching someone pack up your stuff without asking. "So where does it stop?" I asked quietly. "If I get another grant, is that for the family too?" "You're twisting this. You always do when you're scared. You're at the nicest school in the country because I didn't give up when things got hard." "I think you're so used to surviving, you don't notice when you're stepping on me to do it." Long silence. "We're done here," she said, and hung up. 3 years passed. I finished Yale, got a job, built a life that didn't require asking permission or checking if my success made someone else feel small. Mom and I spoke maybe twice a year. Birthdays, holidays, surface level. Amber's bar opened, then closed 6 months later. Then one day, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go, but something made me answer. "Jordan?" It was Amber, voice shaking. "It's Mom. She's in the hospital. It's bad. Her kidneys. They're saying she needs a transplant. Soon." My chest tightened. "I'm sorry, that's awful. We need you to come home. She's asking for you." I stared at the wall. Asking for me? Or asking for my kidney? Silence. "Jordan, she's your mom. She raised you. She chose a bar over my education. She drained my college fund without asking. She made me feel guilty for succeeding. And now you're calling because you need something from me again. That's not fair. Isn't it?" Another pause. "Will you at least come see her?" I thought about it, about the girl sitting on that dorm bed, being told to drop out, about Thanksgiving alone, about the empty savings account, about every time I was made to feel like my achievements were a burden. "I'll think about it," I said, and hung up. The next day, I drove to the hospital, not because I owed them anything, but because I needed to see this through. Mom was in a bed by the window, thinner, grayer, tubes everywhere. She looked up when I walked in, eyes filling. "Jordan, you came." I stood at the foot of the bed, didn't sit. Amber said you wanted to see me. I did. I do. Her voice was weak. I need to tell you something. I waited. I was wrong. About everything. The way I treated you, the money, asking you to give up school. I thought I was protecting Amber, but I was just scared. Scared of losing you both. Scared of failing. I crossed my arms. And now you need a kidney. She flinched. The doctors said family is the best match. I know I have no right to ask, but I'm asking. You're asking me to give you an organ. After you took my college fund, after you made me choose between my family and my future. I know. After you made me feel guilty for succeeding. I know. After you hung up on me when I tried to set boundaries. She closed her eyes, tears sliding down. I know. I was a terrible mother. I see that now. And if you walk out and never come back, I'd understand. But I'm asking anyway. Please. I looked at her. At this woman who'd raised me, fed me, loved me in her broken way, and also hurt me, repeatedly, without apology, until she needed something. I'll get tested, I said finally. See if I'm a match. Her face lit up. Really? But, I continued, even if I am, I haven't decided yet. You don't get my kidney just because we share DNA. You get it if I choose to give it, on my terms, not because of guilt, not because of family, because I choose to. She nodded, desperate. Okay, yes, whatever you need. What I need is for you to understand something. The version of me who would have sacrificed everything without question, she doesn't exist anymore. You made sure of that when you chose Amber's fantasy over my reality. Mom started to cry. I'm so sorry. I know, and I'll think about it. But you need to sit with the possibility that the answer might be no. And if it is, that's the consequence of the choice you made 3 years ago. I turned to leave. Jordan, she called out, voice breaking. I stopped. Didn't turn around. I love you. I always have. I just didn't know how to show it right. I looked back over my shoulder. Love isn't asking someone to be smaller so someone else can feel bigger. That's control. And I'm done being controlled. I walked out, got tested. Turned out I was a match. Perfect match, the doctor said. Like you were made for this. I sat with that information for 2 weeks. Amber called every day, begging, crying, bargaining. I didn't answer. Finally, I went back to the hospital. Mom was worse, weaker, barely awake. I sat down next to the bed. I'm a match, I said. She opened her eyes, hope flooding in. And I'm going to do it. She started crying. Thank you. Thank you. I don't deserve... You don't, I agreed. But I'm not doing this because you deserve it. I'm doing it because I want to be the kind of person who can give, even when it's hard, even when I'm angry, even when the other person failed me first. I took a breath. But after this, we're going to have some very different rules. You don't get to make decisions for me. You don't get to guilt me. You don't get to compare me to Amber. You get honesty. You get boundaries. You get a relationship on my terms. Or you get nothing. She nodded, frantic. Yes, anything. And Amber needs therapy. For the gambling, for everything. That's non-negotiable. Okay? And you need therapy. To figure out why you thought sacrificing one daughter to save the other was ever acceptable. I will. I promise. The surgery happened a month later. Recovery was hard, painful, slow. But I did it. Not for her, for me. To prove I could give and still keep my boundaries. To show that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. Mom lived. Got better, slowly. We talk now. Not like before, but different. More honest. She goes to therapy. So does Amber. They're working on themselves. Finally. And me? I'm still building the life I fought for. The one where my success isn't a threat. Where my boundaries aren't betrayal. Where giving is a choice, not an obligation. If there's a lesson, it's that blood doesn't entitle anyone to your sacrifice. You can love someone and still say no. You can help someone and still protect yourself. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is give on your own terms. Not because they asked, but because you chose to.